It is 80 AD. The Roman Empire is at its peak, and everything seems perfect in the world. Well, almost everything. There are beggars and thieves in the streets, and that is something that the Romans don't like. One day, one of the most powerful senators of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, was driving to the forum in his chariot. Suddenly, his slaves on the chariot shouted in horror. They pointed their fingers towards the poor man lying on the ground. All he had done was to steal a piece of bread. Marcus was shocked at the sight. He immediately stopped the chariot and went straight to the poor man. The soldiers were shouting, "I caught him red-handed. He is a thief, Your Honor." "What should we do with him?" One of them suggested, "Let's throw him in prison." Another soldier added, "No, let's kill him right here." They were ready to kill the old man right there, but Marcus stopped them.
Wait.
"I want to ask him a few questions myself." He turned towards the old man and asked, "Why did you steal?" The old man was terrified. He looked up at Marcus. With tears in his eyes, he stammered, I am sorry, Marcus Aurelius. Honorable sir. I had no choice. My family has not eaten for 3 days. My children were crying from hunger. I couldn't take it anymore, so I stole a piece of bread. I am sorry." Marcus felt pity for the old man. His heart went out to the poor guy. In fact, he was so moved that he didn't want to punish the old man. On the contrary, he wanted to help him. The crowd was watching them. They were curious about what Marcus would say. Would he punish the man? Perhaps sentence him to death? You know how Romans dealt with thieves? Or would he leave him with a warning? Everyone was waiting with bated breath, but instead, Marcus did something unexpected. He asked the man, "What is your name?" "Gnaeus, Honorable Marcus Aurelius." "Gnaeus, listen carefully. I know you've been through a lot, but please promise me you won't steal again, right?" The old man nodded tearfully. "Of course not, Marcus Aurelius. Promise. I'm very sorry." Then Marcus announced in front of everyone, "From today onwards, Gnaeus is free from all his debts. Not only that, I will give your family food for a whole month. And Gnaeus, you will work in my farms. You will earn honest money there. I promise you will never go hungry again." Gnaeus fell at Marcus's feet and thanked him. He was extremely grateful for the kindness. The crowd watched the exchange between the two men in silence. No one said a word. After a while, Marcus turned towards his son Lucius and said, "Lucius, my son, you have learned an important lesson today. Sometimes people make mistakes, but they deserve a chance to correct themselves. It is easy to punish people for their mistakes, but understanding the cause of their suffering and providing a solution is true leadership." Lucius looked down at the ground. He knew his father was right. He didn't say a word. A few days after the incident, life returned to normal in Rome. Lucius forgot about the beggar and his father's lesson, but fate had other plans. Suddenly, the emperor's army came running to the forum. They were in a panic. They announced that war had broken out in the northern province. The soldiers were afraid. They had not eaten for days. The situation was getting worse. They needed supplies, and fast. Lucius felt bad for the soldiers. He decided to visit one of his farms. He wanted to personally see how the preparations for the winter were going on. Lucius arrived at the farm and was shocked. The sacks of grain were completely empty. He asked the manager, "What happened? Where's the grain? You need to send some to the soldiers at the front, don't you think?" The manager replied, "Oh, Lucius, everything is fine. The grain is safe. But you see, last month, many poor people came to us. They begged us to give them some food. I felt sorry for them. So I secretly distributed most of the grain among the poor. I am very sorry, but I couldn't bear seeing those hungry faces, especially the children. If I had known that the soldiers would need the grain, I would never have done that." Lucius was heartbroken. He felt terrible. Those poor people could have found another way to get food. What about the soldiers who were dying of hunger? Now, who would be responsible for that? Lucius felt helpless. Just then, one of the slaves approached him and whispered in his ear, "Honorable Lucius, some guests have arrived from the city. They're asking for food and water for their master. They say he is very ill." Lucius frowned. He remembered now. His father had received a letter from the front. A general had fallen ill due to hunger, and his condition was worsening. The emperor had sent Lucius's father, Marcus, to bring the general back to the city, and now his father was on his way. Lucius's father was on his way. Lucius immediately ordered, "Prepare some food and water as soon as possible. We need to send it to the city right away." The manager replied, "But Lucius, you saw for yourself. We barely have any food left. The sacks are almost empty." "I am afraid we cannot help them." Lucius was stunned. Only then he realized what hunger meant. How terrible it must be to look at sacks full of grain and not be able to eat even a morsel of bread. Tears welled up in Lucius's eyes. He ran to his father's house in the city. As soon as he opened the door, he saw his father packing some food and water. Lucius immediately asked, "Father, we don't have much grain left. The slaves told me the sacks are almost empty. How can we send anything to the soldiers?" Marcus turned around and looked at his son. "Lucius, I am proud of you. You've finally understood what it means to go hungry. You know how terrible it is to look at sacks full of grain and not be able to touch them? Do you think the soldiers enjoy eating their fill while others starve to death?" Lucius shook his head, embarrassed. He didn't know what to say. "I am sorry, Father. I did not understand your lesson. Please forgive me." Marcus hugged his son. "You don't have to be sorry, Lucius. Now you understand what it means to go hungry. Use this experience to help others. That is the real lesson here." Lucius nodded, touched by his father's words. He promised to himself, "I will never forget this day. I will use this experience to help others." And that is exactly what he did. Every year on that day, Lucius organized feasts for the poor and the needy. He also made sure that every soldier in the army got enough food and supplies. Lucius became famous throughout the empire for his generosity and compassion. Historians wrote about his kindness, and people told stories about his transformation from a spoiled young man into a generous leader. And if you think this is where the story ends, then you are wrong. One day, a delegation of Greek philosophers visited the Roman Forum. They had come to discuss philosophy and politics with the leading senators. Lucius invited them to his house for dinner. During the feast, one of the philosophers asked him, "Lucius, you have a good reputation. People say you are generous and compassionate. But we believe that true wisdom lies in simplicity and detachment. How can you justify hosting such lavish feasts?" Lucius pondered over the question, thought for a moment, and replied, "Honorable philosopher, you are right. Simplicity and detachment are indeed virtues, but I believe in helping those in need. I have seen what it means to go hungry, and I know how important it is to have a full belly. Yes, my feasts may seem extravagant, but they bring joy to the poor and the needy. Is not making people happy a virtue in itself? Is helping those in need not a sign of wisdom? True wisdom, I believe, lies in striking a balance between simplicity and compassion, between detachment and generosity. Just as a ship needs both an anchor and a sail to navigate the sea, I believe that we too need both simplicity and compassion to live a virtuous life. By practicing simplicity, we can find inner peace and detachment. But by showing compassion and helping the needy, we can make the world a better place. It is through this balance that we can truly be wise and compassionate. The Greek philosophers were impressed by Lucius's answer. They realized that he had found a balance between ancient Greek philosophy and Roman values. They applauded Lucius for his wisdom and understanding. Remember, friends, just like Lucius, we too can make a difference in this world. We can help those in need and make them happy, can show compassion to those who are suffering. And in doing so, we can find true happiness and fulfillment in our lives. And thus, the story of Lucius and his father, Marcus Aurelius, reminds us that true wisdom lies in striking a balance between simplicity and compassion, between detachment and generosity. Just as a ship needs both an anchor and a sail to navigate the sea, we too need both simplicity and compassion to live a virtuous life.